2, 1, go.
And we're back.
All right, so today we've got everyone, it seems like, that does Jiu-Jitsu at Nova Fitness. No. Jason, you're head of running Jiu-Jitsu. You were on the podcast with Kevin a few weeks ago. Darren, the right-hand man. Is that true?
He's on the right hand.
Physically, sir.
Physically, he's the right hand.
And then the ladies of the BJJ.
Hello.
So Susanna, you coach or have been coaching?
Kind of here and there, somewhat, not a lot.
Or did you in the past?
I did in the past.
Okay.
Back home, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu.
And did you coach in the past before? This is Katie Ford?
Yes, Katie Ford, yep. So not really Jiu-Jitsu, haven't really done a coaching class for that yet. This will be your first one.
Yes.
Cool. So basically we're going to be bringing the breakdown of everything going on in Jiu-Jitsu. As far as the new programs, you guys can lay all that out for us. I'm going to try not to talk as much. And then I just have some questions. I've been reading some Jiu-Jitsu books, which I know is by no means the same as doing Jiu-Jitsu, but I just wanted to ask you some general questions and get some, hey, what's your perspective on this guy's thought? I don't know if you've heard the author, Chris Batakis, but it's very interesting. I can't think anything that I read in his books were like, oh my gosh, that seems controversial. It just seemed like good, explanation. But we'll take a look into one of his books and see what you guys think, just for entertainment's sake and fun. But, so, to get us updated, what is happening?
So today, actually, we kicked off our first class. It was, we're just getting back to covering basics and fundamentals. We wanted to start off that way just so that we could get everyone eased back into it. When you first start off training again, obviously, your body is not ready for it. And so we're trying to let people ease their way in gently and hopefully not crash their way into it. And also, Susanna and Katie are going to be starting their classes probably on June 1st. So they're getting ramped up to be able to teach those classes. And
So classes meaning?
Women's classes.
Women's classes.
Yes. We're going to do
Bam.
it exciting.
Yep.
It is. It's really exciting.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be on Tuesday nights. Just kind of really focused towards women. Jiu-Jitsu is definitely an amazing art. And it's been great training with the guys. And it's kind of hard coming into a gym as a woman, just overall, right? Just coming into a gym and you're like, sometimes it's daunting, like, okay, here I am at this brand new gym. And then you're like, okay, well, I want to try out like Jiu-Jitsu. That's kind of self-defense. Like, let me get my feet wet. And you walk into a gym full of guys and you're like, okay. Yeah. It's a little overwhelming at first. Yeah. And then, it's close physical contact. You're in definitely different situations. Men are usually typically stronger. So it's definitely like, it's a big challenge, and we don't see a lot of women generally kind of falling or finding an interest in remaining like consistent with it and growing with it. So we kind of really are looking at the opportunity as like Nova's kind of restarting. We kind of have a good women's base right now with our our group here. And Jason was like, hey, let's kind of focus a little bit more on women and get a class together just for women that's geared for women. So it's kind of like a very open, welcoming space where we can kind of build off of what we've learned throughout the course of the week in all the mixed classes and just focus it a little bit different for maybe how a woman moves. So there are those different nuances, and just to be able to kind of have that space and that time just solely dedicated to kind of growth in that department. We're excited.
So you could do, if a woman could do just the Tuesday night women's classes and or mix with the guys as well on other nights?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just to get them comfortable.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Tuesday is definitely like, hey, if you want to try it out for the first time and you're not really interested in like doing a class with guys and girls or just guys or whatever, like that's totally fine. Here's a class where you can just kind of come in and just meet the girls and kind of acclimate to the whole situation. And then you can kind of meet people, get to know people, kind of grow in that space too. And then even we partner all the time. Hey, what class are you going to be at? Can I partner with you?
Yeah.
So even having that face-to-face kind of like an icebreaker for a women's class, saying, okay, well, now we know each other. Now we know a little bit. I'll be at Friday. Do you want to come on Friday too? And roll with everybody, meet some more people. So just kind of taking down those walls and those barriers to get people kind of involved more.
Yeah, I imagine it'd be intimidating. I'm a 210-pound adult male, and I'm like intimidated to roll with the BJJ guys. So, but from when I have rolled with some of you girls, my ego is at stake. So I'm like, please don't let this girl choke me out. I'm working every single angle I can. And but he realizes too that it's really not any different once you know
Yeah.
kind of, or you're comfortable with just how to roll and stuff. Like girl, guy, I don't know. Try not to get choked up. That's the whole game I
Yeah.
play.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But you can still say that till you're blue in the face.
Right.
I'm still like, yeah, my first class, no.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
no,
like
no, of
someone
course.
who's never done that before. I'm like, yeah. So for me,
Yeah.
specifically,
Yeah.
like an all women's class is super enticing.
Yeah.
Just to get
Yeah,
my feet wet
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
try it out and see if it's
Yeah.
something I might like.
Yeah.
Katie didn't mention it, but she has a lot of experience as an instructor.
Oh, yeah.
before
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Jiu-Jitsu. She, what you want to
Yeah,
talk
talk about that. Let's hear it.
So I guess I could kind of start with like what kind of got me involved in martial arts in general. So I didn't like growing up as a kid, like I wasn't really involved in like school sports programs or anything like that. So I wasn't really super active. So it was at a point in my life, my brother was like, listen, let's do something together. He's like, I found this gym and it's called Muay Thai. And I'm like, what did you just say? Like, what are those words and what are you talking about? He's like, it's like cardio kickboxing, but like way different because this guy's going to let us like punch each other in the face. And I was like, when are classes and where are they? Can we please go today? So actually that is kind of how I started getting into, martial arts, boxing, Muay Thai, Jiu Jitsu. It was under Vision Quest Muay Thai, which was just a life-changing gym kind of to go to. Primo Belrosa is the coach there. And he's coached people for UFC, Bellator, like glory fights. Like he is just fantastic. He's just like the nicest guy, welcoming. Is even at a point in my life where I didn't even have anywhere to really live, and him and his wife just took me in and gave me a place to stay. So we really I really kind of grew in that space. I fell in love with Muay Thai. It was an awesome experience because my siblings got to kind of come with me. I have a big family, so it was like 4 or 5 of us, and we're all like fighting each other, and we're not gonna get in trouble, and this is awesome.
Yeah.
So it was like
Yeah.
totally cool. It was like the best experience. So I was there for a little while, and then I was on their fight team. And then I had a fight, and that did not go very well. I didn't wind up winning, but I did learn from that fight that I was like, you know what? I wanted to keep that girl like in my clinch, and I wanted her next to me. I didn't want her far away because I literally just like the whole fight. He was like, "What are you doing? Why don't you like hit her?" He's like, "All you're doing is kneeing her." I'm like, "I know, I can't breathe. I just want to knee her." But literally at that point, I was like, I like kind of close up stuff. So I was like, okay, like what would be next? So my life kind of continued to move forward, and I started dating Jason, my fiance, and he was really involved in Jiu Jitsu at KNOVA. And he was like, okay, you really love Muay Thai. He's like, I really think you would really like Jiu Jitsu. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And as soon as I hit the mat for the first time, I was like, this is awesome. This is like fantastic. So I would just literally at that point, we lived right around the corner from KNOVA, and I would just get up like every morning and go over and meet somebody to train with. And I spent a lot of time training with Halim, who has now gone on to be like U.S. Judo champion, I think. And he would just spend multiple hours with me just in the morning, just drilling. He's like, you have to drill, whatever you do, just always drill. He's like, it's muscle memory, you gotta drill. And he was just incremental to like me growing quickly, as well as my fiance. I was like obsessed with it, jiu-jitsu. So I was like, hey, can we actually like clean out the living room and just like put mats down in the living room? And he was like, what did you just say? And he's like, people don't usually ask for that. I'm like, I know, but this is what I want to do. So he was awesome. We did that, and we would just wake up in the morning, we would drill whenever we had time. I wound up progressing and feeling confident enough where I wanted to kind of like test my skill set. So we started just signing up for any and every competition, and they went really well. I pretty much won all of them. I competed in at least like 8 competitions, like back to back throughout the course of 2 years. It was really exciting. I really loved doing it, and then it just kind of cemented for me like the importance of drilling, just because I saw how quickly I was progressing in that area. And then not only that, but like the team that surrounds you. So I had everyone at KNOVA, Jason, Darren, I had Kevin Wu, multiple hours, just like investing in my growth. And to me, like it's paramount. Like when you get to a gym and you find those people that they just want to give you their knowledge on what they've learned, you can't take that for granted. It's like priceless. Like, it's just, there's nothing that can compare to that. It's just something that, it's their knowledge base, it's their experience, and they're investing it 100% in you. And then I think it's exciting too, having had that opportunity to, I've done like smaller group, like Muay Thai fitness classes, and I had 2 of the guys progress really, really well, to the point where they were like, we want to fight, and I was like, well, I'm not really at that point. I don't feel like I'm the caliber where I can get you ready for a fight. So I sent them over to another gym in the area, John Ferrara. They fought under him and I think they worked a little bit with Fight Factory too, but just going to their fight and like seeing them like dominate and like seeing them like practice like their Muay Thai skills, it brings such joy to be able to be like, I helped them get there. Like, I imparted that
I feel the
knowledge.
same way.
It's
about
so exciting. Yeah.
That is what excites me the most is really being able to see people learn and progress, and the light bulbs going off in their head, and that's what draws me into this the most.
Absolutely.
How common is it for people to go from like, hey, let me try this out, or maybe they like it at first and then go into like the sport of competing in it? I feel like that seems like a leap to me from, I like to dabble, but to compete in it seems like a whole
I
nother.
love to compete. It's great.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yep, it's an
Meeting
adrenaline
people.
dump. The first time you do it, you get this huge rush of adrenaline because you've got a whole crowd of people watching you, and you're in the middle of the stage.
But everyone cheers you no matter what.
Exactly.
Everyone's still cheering you on no matter if you're winning or losing. They're still cheering
Is
you
that
on.
common in Nova? Like, are a lot of the people kind of sparingly do competitions, or seriously, or
It's a mix.
It's a mix. Some people try it just because they want to. Some people they love it and they just go after it, and so it's kind of a mix. We'd like to do more around competition training. It's not something we tend to focus on, but it's definitely something that I know we have a strong interest in, and so we're going to try and grow that side as well.
okay,
So,
Cool. What's the percentage of growth for someone not competing versus competing?
I would
do you know
say,
what I mean?
from personal experience, I would say it really opens your mind to the flaws in your game. You go and you compete. You know exactly what you need to work on after you get done.
Yeah.
Even if you won the match, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to work on escapes, or I need to work on, my submissions in this one particular spot. I couldn't finish that submission.
Yeah.
So Susanna, you've competed a lot. Is that your experience too?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the difference between submission fighting and point competitions, because there's ones you go for points, and then there's ones that are just strictly submission, and you can go up to 30 minutes of rolling. So there's a whole big different ball game. Yeah. But you learn I need to do this, and I need to work on this, and what you need to fine tune for yourself.
How do you get that feedback? Is it just your own experience?
Coaches, your own experience.
Okay,
and even talking to the person you compete against. That's the nice thing about it, is when you're done after beating the crap out of each other, you end up making tons of friends, and you sit and talk about, okay, what'd you do, and what did I do, and how can we do this, and you sit and talk about it. It's actually quite nice.
No, that's great.
Sorry
for all the weird competition questions. I come from competitive Irish
No.
dance, and you're handed scores at the end of your round, and judges' comments and all kinds of stuff. So I'm like, how do you know what's happening? Is there a video? Is there obviously
Videos
your
too.
coaches are there? Okay. Any judge commentary or anything?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the, if you compete, and I personally, I have, but I don't compete a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Being in shape, I think, is a huge factor.
Oh, for sure.
You can have all the skill in the world, but if you're exhausted 30 seconds into it, because you get an adrenaline dump, and there's, you just did 5 matches in a row, with a 10-minute break, so making that transition from, whether you want to be just a student or whether you want to be a student who competes,
That's the difference.
you definitely got to have that in mind.
Yeah. Believe me, I'm probably not going to compete, but I'm just curious.
You never know.
I think even if you don't compete, it's
Yeah.
pretty cool just to go with maybe someone from the gym that does compete, just to
See.
support them and just to see, because you're like, oh, this is what I do every week. I may not be competing at that level, but I can do this too. And you do, and you just kind of take pride in it, and it you have camaraderie in it, and I think, you know, when you do compete, there's a lot of fine tuning that goes on after those matches. It's really insightful experience.
That's great.
Sure. I was looking down because I had to make sure I didn't unplug the microphone with my foot again. Just double checking. We're good. Okay, so like competing, I mean, if you just looked at it, hear it abstractly, like a lot of people that aren't already doing jiu-jitsu or haven't seen jiu-jitsu have no idea what we're even talking about. So if I'm coming to, I hear about jiu-jitsu, my friend, my neighbor does it, or I got a girlfriend, boyfriend who like does it. Like, what are they doing? What is the whole point of us even starting this to begin with? What would I get out of it at a baseline level?
Well, it's a self-defense.
Protection.
System. You know, jiu-jitsu generally, for the most part, is grappling, submission grappling, forcing your opponent to give up or concede. You know, that's the goal in jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
So if we're competing, I'm trying to make you tap, which means I'm done. You know, you're either going to break my arm or put me to sleep, or you know, with your choke, and I don't want that. So you know, we have a gentleman's agreement that when it's time
you won't
to
break
stop,
and I'll tap on.
and I will stop twerking on it. Just like when you're choking the heck out of me, I will tap and say I don't want to fall asleep here. So I concede.
Right. Okay.
It's crap.
And so I know, like, the thing that I didn't initially realize when I started rolling, but it was like, hey, the first 6 months, I'd say, you spend learning to defend yourself or not be overtaken by someone else, even more than you.
Surviving.
Yeah, you learn to make sure someone can't overtake you. You know, maybe talk a little more detail about that. I thought that was a huge piece. Is like, I didn't realize how helpless I was until I rolled with some people who were clearly skilled.
And you're a pretty strong guy.
I'm strong. I think I have reasonable endurance, you know, like things like that. But like when I would roll with someone, it wasn't like, oh, I just wasn't trying hard enough, or they were so much bigger. In most cases, it wasn't bigger or anything like that. But I realized, holy crap, I don't even know how to defend myself. And it was partially humbling, but partially like, holy shit, if I can learn to defend myself, you know.
Yeah.
So even when it like came down to like trying to, you know, half the time I get in positions, I'm like, I don't even know what to do here. I've never got this far before. Like,
Right.
You know what I mean? And I wouldn't know what to do, and I would just like pause. But then it would only be a matter of time till my much more skilled opponent would show me what I should or should not do.
That's exactly.
That's
exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think NOVA is a very much a teaching school. The instructors teach, the students teach the students, and we encourage that a lot. I think that's one of the huge benefits here, and everyone tries to make sure that you're learning when you're out there grappling. But yeah, as a new person coming in, you can get steamrolled pretty easily, and it's like, you know, you're strong bench press, right? But when your bench press is moving in 360 degrees directions, and now it's pushing out here or it's pushing above your head, you know, and it's a moving target. It's a lot more difficult to deal with that dynamic movement, and that's where it gets really interesting, because you really learn to use leverage more, and you have to learn how to use your body and position your body.
So if you're on the street, like, how confident are you that like no one at any given moment is going to?
Slightly
this is why
more.
For women, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
Why
Yes.
women need this.
Right,
Yeah.
and
This
I
is
agree.
exactly
I mean,
right there.
I try to. After I started doing jiu-jitsu for a while, I started saying, "Holy
This is why I
shit!
started it to
Everyone
begin
should be
with."
doing this
Yeah.
a little
Yes.
bit." And even my wife, I try to push her. I think the women's class will hook her in.
I absolutely.
So I think like
So important.
Yeah, it's super important. So I think with like women, like you are like if you're out and about by yourself, I think you do need to know how to defend
some kind
yourself
of
at
to
some
get
point.
away. Something.
Just to get away, like bare
Anything.
minimum, just to get away. So I think that, you know, what you were asking earlier, you know, what would someone get out of a jiu-jitsu class? Men, women, what have you, a child even going to jiu-jitsu, you're gonna learn the basics of how to get away.
Yes, absolutely.
And with that comes more confidence, and not only will that help improve your situation throughout life, but knowing how to get away kind of gives you that thought process of, okay, now I'm in a situation, like in a safe space where I'm learning how to defend myself from a potential bad situation. It's going to make you more aware in your daily life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a big piece that sometimes, you know, I've talked to a lot of people just kind of through my journeys through, you know, jiu-jitsu, boxing, what have you, and like until I started jiu-jitsu, boxing, like I just didn't pay attention to what was going on around me, and it just brings to light. You're like, oh my goodness, like I was walking around in the world and didn't know how to take care of myself. Like, you know, it just really, you really start to like really invest in that and like, okay, no, I want to know like what I should be doing at least bare minimum.
Well, I had the opposite experience of being like thinking I was like, I've been in a few fights in my day, you know, not ones that like look like they should ever happen twice, but I thought I can defend myself if I had to, and then I realized not against the wrong person, no chance.
And I've had some personal experiences that if I didn't have jiu-jitsu, I'd be in some serious trouble.
Do you ever walk around daring a stranger in your head to attack you?
Oh, sometimes you think, you know what, if this person, like if you're going through WOMENS is a good example. Oh my dear Lord, please get out of the way. No, not today, not today.
I think it's like first starting out too, especially like, I mean, I was a lot younger and stupider too, so I'd be like, all right, well, I know how to defend myself. Like, okay, if this person came at me, I'd be fine, and you're like, look back and like, oh my God, I was so dumb. Like, why would I even think that, you know?
I don't think you can ever assume that someone else is a pushover. You know?
Oh I know that now.
Well, and then you're also dealing with other situations like alcohol and drugs, and that makes that changes the equation because people have lower inhibition. They also don't really know their own strength, and Susanna works in the medical field. She's had some situations at the hospital.
Absolutely, I have.
So I mean, she's also trained in Japanese jiu-jitsu as
23 years in that. I'm a second degree black belt in that.
Oh wow! And so now jiu-jitsu started in Japan at its origin, and somehow became Brazilian.
They brought it to Brazil.
Brought it to Brazil, and then it somehow got branded better in Brazil.
Gracie's
the Gracies, yes, that thing. Okay, yes. Wait, so do you mind sharing a story? I don't want to be too intrusive.
I don't mind.
If you want to tell a story where jiu-jitsu may have helped.
I will give. Well, we won't go into full details, but I was grabbed by my hair, and my head was against the wall. And if I wasn't as calm, because when you're rolling and you have Jason, who's 250 pounds.
249. Don't.
I'm just saying he's a solid, not that he's solid, big, 6 foot, etc.
Well,
somebody you start before. Sometimes you get to hyperventilate. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be smothered, and you got to go put your mind in another place. Going, okay, it's going to be all right. I'm in this situation. I'm okay. You just breathe and let it go. Mm-hmm. I just left the person. I just grabbed my hands and I just kept there, and I just started doing like I breathe when I'm rolling. Finally, he let go, and I got away.
Yeah.
I squeezed his hands at the same time, saying, I kept saying, okay.
Is this somebody just kind of having like an episode?
So, and then I've had another incident where a gentleman in the middle of the night, I work overnight shifts, broke into my ultrasound room and was naked, screaming, yelling. Security guards are flailing. He's going around, and
you just don't know what's
You just don't know.
Well, that's like, you don't know.
Yeah.
And if somebody grabs you, it's like, I know what to do.
Having that presence of mind and the calmness that you can take some level of pressure. Like you learn that because you're grappling with someone, so you learn what your body can handle, and also how you can remain calm in a tense situation, and the offensive part of that comes after. So you have that line that it crosses, and then you're going to go forward and you're going to attack and you're going to defend yourself. So that's where all this comes into. And Darren actually is a police officer. You've been a police officer for how long?
22 years.
Yes. And I'm sure this has helped you a little bit, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting time in the world because you do see situations where there's police officers who could use these kinds of skills to better control a situation. So for me, it's been very beneficial. I've never been in a situation where I've had to hurt somebody by controlling them and hurting them, but they've stopped. They haven't been able to continue what they were doing because they just weren't able to. It wasn't working. There's the other side of this though, where there was an incident where there was a group of us arresting one person who was out of control, and actually one of the officers stepped on my foot, breaking it, which kind of shows you that you never know what can happen. So it's best to avoid the conflict and know how to get away from it and protect yourself, not go out and look for it. So, I could have all the training in the world, but once your bone's broken, you have to have that control, that breathing control that Suzanne was talking about, the control not to freak out and, and lose your mind here that, oh no, now what? Oh wait, I can still defend myself, even though, things aren't going my way at the moment, I'm still in control here. So it's interesting.
When you talk about not going out looking for it, in one of the other jiu-jitsu books I had read, you talked a lot about the type of personality, the person who knows that they can, submit or subdue or attack if they wanted to or defend themselves, is also less prone to act out because they don't need to prove it. It's like that, the small dog syndrome, where the small dog who's insecure is attacking everything around him, and the person who is completely confident in their ability to defend or attack an opponent, they don't feel the need to, so they're actually less violent, even though they're higher skilled and have that ability. I thought that was interesting. It was one of the aspects of Chris Metaxas's books. So I actually want to dive into asking just some general questions. This is a book called 5 Rules for White Belts. I thought it was interesting, and so I read it. And there's another one he has. It's just called On Jiu-Jitsu, and it's more of like a deeper dive into his philosophy and he, years and decades of teaching jiu-jitsu and running a gym. So I just want to basically, I'll kind of just put it out there, like rule number 1, and then you guys can, at will, however you want to, respond. I think you'll find that these are not like controversial rules that you have to follow, but more like philosophies. And I thought it'd be cool to hear your guys' input from them. So without further ado.
Can we pause?
Yes.
Okay.
You just got to change the battery. No, it's so the questions are broke down right in the table of contents. Or I would have, because the other day I was going to go take all the questions out and then
45 minutes of watching.
No. All right. So rule number 1 is to remember that you are a work in progress. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. Still every day, even not just a white belt. It's every day.
I feel like that's
every day.
Everything.
I think especially as a white belt, you get discouraged.
You do.
It's a very trying but happy time because you're making these little progressions and you can celebrate them. And then it's so great being at Nova because people recognize those small progressions and they're like, you did good on this. And you're like, oh, okay. But then sometimes when you're being self-reflective in your roles or the type of skills that you're practicing, you can get very discouraged. And it's kind of like this up and down, this roller coaster. I think maybe going through any belt level is like that. You're just I remember just sometimes just coming back home and crying and being like, I am so frustrated. I put in 20 hours this week and I got submitted left and right. How am I not getting better? There's those, the valleys and the peaks, and it's reminding yourself that it's a work in progress. It's going to be okay. You'll get there.
Jiu-Jitsu is generally a slower progressive martial art compared to a lot of other martial arts. The progression through it takes longer. It takes more time to move up in the belt ranking in jiu-jitsu. So, it's easy. It is easy, especially for kids, to get discouraged when they start because, they might be used to something like karate where, 2 weeks in, you're getting a new belt and, it's like, wow, I'm moving so quickly. I'm going to be a black belt in, whatever number of years. Whereas in jiu-jitsu, you could spend 8 to 15, 16 years before you get to that final belt, and even at that point, there's still.
Yeah, it is my experience, and it's very limited, of course. But the amount I learned in the small weeks or months or whatever it was of rolling, I nothing compared to anyone here at this table. But I am so much substantially better than the day I started. Just understanding my own body and how to lay on the mat and sort of defend myself. But it was little piece every single day, every single time. It never felt like I was winning, but I would realize afterwards, holy crap, I'm better at that now. I wouldn't realize until the next time I was back on the mat, but it helped.
It's really a layering of techniques. So you're only able to remember a certain number of things at a time. 7 is about the max that I've heard. So
I wish I could remember.
I know that's what I've heard. The max is about 7. But you have to layer in those things, and it's one thing to learn it. It's another to drill it. It's another to put it into grappling when someone's doing it. And then it's another to do it when you're being choked.
Yeah.
So all of those things require a lot of mat time in order to progress. Can I do it under stress? Can I do it when there's somebody that's that has a arm that's twice as long as mine? That's why it takes a long time.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Ready for the next question?
Yes.
Rule number 2. Narrow your immediate focus.
Yep.
Say that, yes.
I gotta say it again in my head. First, gotta figure out what some of those words mean.
Yes.
Go from there.
As a white belt, I feel like that is a key thing. You definitely because there's so many things that you want to try, and people tend to go to YouTube, and they tend to get overloaded, and then they're trying 1,000 things when the instructor is saying, "I just want you to learn how to escape this side control position." And they're like, but that's the most boring thing ever. And yeah, but you're going to do that 1,000
start from the beginning
in the first month.
Yeah.
So really that is key, learning to focus and learn the technique and actually put it into those stages that I talked about.
A lot of times in our CrossFit classes, it's you see the movements and some of the lifts, and they're complicated, and there's multiple pieces to them. But a lot of times, even within those, you can only fix one thing, and it might just be where you set up your ankles.
Yes.
Or where you put your hands, and you can't fix the rest yet. You just have to do that one thing.
Yes.
Any other thoughts?
I mean, I think that's kind of like what we were talking about in class today.
Yeah.
If that never goes away. If you want to get better, it's those little things.
The basics. You need the basics.
It's the basics, and practicing them over and over and over and over again. It's muscle memory, because you're going to be, the plan is to do them in multiple different scenarios, right? Or with multiple different opponents. And it has to be that muscle memory, and you just have to focus that one thing. Today we're using our elbows for cross facing, and I'm like, nope, just where's my elbow placement? Get it perfect over and over and over again, instead of looking at the whole 5 movements in it. Today I'm just going to work on one thing from the 5. Tomorrow I'm going to add number 2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. Rule number 3. Learn how to learn.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's a universal life skill.
Yeah.
That should be number 1.
That should be number 1. Absolutely, I agree.
That should be number 1.
Anything particular you've learned besides the physical act of submitting your opponent, or physically? Anything you've learned from jiu-jitsu or jiu-jitsu taught you about life that you find more meaningful or more significant daily?
I think that it's being able to be calm in situations that are stressful.
Extremely.
Yeah.
That's a big one for me.
For me, it's been my career in business that I've just looked back constantly on the techniques that I've learned, and the way that I've been able to use some of the they're not really things that I've been taught specifically as part of class, but just the mindset, the approach, and the ability to withstand the stress and be calm and cool during that stressful time. That's what I learned. That's the biggest thing.
I would say for me that everyone's personalities differ too. I'm very stubborn, so for me, jiu-jitsu has really kind of been that. Be willing to learn, right? It's humbling. You have to listen to what someone else is saying, because I am not strong enough. Because in the very beginning, it's definitely you try and muscle your way through things. You're oh, I can do it, or I can be faster than this person. Always grasping for that one thing instead of going back to the hard part and focusing on your technique and listening to instruction. You have to be humble. You have to be willing to be nope, I'm wrong. My muscle isn't going to get me through it. My speed isn't going to get me through it. I have to pay attention. I have to learn. Even if it's that, white belts offer great insight too. Especially someone new coming in, be humble, listen to what they're saying, take it. They offer good advice. You just have to kind of be humble in your place and be nope, this is where I'm at.
Touche. All right, this is one, and this is I especially, when I read it, I go, hell yeah, too. But it's rule number 4 is to, he says, be grateful for your teammates.
Absolutely, 100%.
And he makes the comparison in the book that you are not competing against each other. You are training together. You're partners in the development of each other. And I was like, I remember all the things Skylar and stuff I was, working on with me and stuff, and Kevin Wu, and I was like, man, thank God they were patient and nice to me, like, because I have no idea what I'm doing. And, probably in their development, I'm not doing much for them other than maybe reminding them how far they've come. But, it made it, I appreciated it so much of like, wow, like they are helping me, and I found that to be true with anyone, blue, white belt, whatever I had rolled with. So anyway, you guys can speak to it
having
more.
A safe partner for sure, giving feedback and being, it makes you want, like, especially with women, you want them to come back. So you want to be, like I'm saying, extremely helpful. I always work with women as soon as they come in. I'll work with you. I'll be your partner because I want you to come back. So,
yeah, and I think being patient too, as someone that's helping someone new come in, like I can't imagine, like your guys must have like so much patience because like looking back, I'm like, when I started, I'm like, how did they even talk to me? Now I was like so horrible, like just they were like so patient, and like looking back, you're like, that's good, like that's a good teammate, and then you have that camaraderie where they're going to be patient and instruct you, and then you have to kind of turn around and give that back in return, you know what I mean? So, and you just, once you realize kind of the dynamic that's going on, like you can't replace good teammates, like it's just invaluable.
That was the thing that absolutely surprised me, was like, it really isn't a competition. I mean, we talk about submitting each other and then doing the competitions and choking each other, but it's not like in a competitive, malicious way. The physical training of it, is back and forth, but it's give and take more than it is push and shove. If that makes sense. I don't know.
Yes. No, that's absolutely it. Some black belts out there, they will never let a white belt submit them. I think that's a bad way of teaching. I think it's good for them to finish the move because they need to learn how to finish the move, and they also need to learn how to finish the move when I'm articulating my elbow at the very end of the position when they're trying to finish the arm lock. And the black belt also needs to learn how to escape at the end of the arm lock. And so there's training all the way from here all the way out to the end of that submission. And it just depends on your mindset of how you want to learn. So that's how I teach. I actually teach, you should be letting people submit you to help them get better at learning the move. So.
And I can second that. For Nova has been one of the gyms that I can look back and say they've always stood by that. They've always stood by protecting their students, making sure people don't get hurt.
Absolutely.
Making sure that there's, that level of competition that's there if you need it. But also making sure that there's no discrepancy between the belts. Like, they're going to treat you the same no matter what, belt level you're at, and always provide that like protected guidance. So which is great for women coming in to the sport to Nova, because no matter who you roll with, you're gonna be okay. And then the coaches are gonna kind of instruct you, hey, this is who you should probably roll with today. I see you progressing, go roll with this person. Like, okay, you did well here, but you kind of weren't doing so great, go roll with this person. Like, just really kind of. And then even if they see people going too hard, they're like, all right, guys, take it easy. You know what I mean? So there's always that constant, like, oversight just to keep the team safe, which is awesome here at Nova.
This is off topic, but I just thought this was just interesting. Maybe we could address it. Like, people worry about getting hurt. They think it's I don't know. I wouldn't know if I would describe Jiu Jitsu as violent.
It can be.
But, I mean, it is it's physical contact.
It is.
Yeah.
People get pretty effed up playing basketball, and that's not even as much direct contact as jiu-jitsu.
I've broken bones.
Broken my toes, fingers.
Susanna's broken bones.
My hip in judo.
It is full contact, and there are dangerous things that can go wrong, especially if someone doesn't know their own strength. So sometimes white belts come in and, they tend to grab and hold and squeeze to the point where... they're not really doing a technique, but they just don't know their own strength, and that's also very dangerous. How
do we work to keep that in check?
We have to pair new people up with more experienced people.
Yes.
That's the way we do it.
Yes.
I would not put a brand new person with Katie as much as I would with Darren, because Darren has dealt with someone coming in and trying to, crush, smash.
So two new people smashing together would be worse than.
Yeah.
So if I'm a white belt coming in, I should be semi-concerned about rolling with another white belt more than I would be a black belt or brown belt or something.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
So
interesting.
there's a difference too in like how you roll. So
That
I think one of the foundational things that white belts are, they come in, like you said, smashing and ready to hold on, is just like plow through everything, is one, teaching them the basics, but teaching them how to flow roll. Like there's sometimes when you work with somebody, you're like, okay, I'm going to flow roll. Oh, what's that? Like, okay, well, this is what you do. You're not trying to kill me right now. We're just going to kind of move through this,
just
and we can work submissions and stuff like that, but it's light, and it's that movement, and you learn so much from that, and it's so safe, but flow rolling has to be taught because it's not innate.
Nope.
So
It's also interesting when you come in and your mind's going, I can't wait to roll with somebody and see how I stack up to these jiu-jitsu people, because I'm a new guy. And generally, we like to put them with people who are more experienced, because there needs to be an understanding of, hey, you know what, that doesn't work necessarily anymore. That 100 miles an hour, I'm exhausted, I'm using all the strength, and I got nothing left in the tank, and it's been 15 seconds. And the guy I'm rolling with who's experienced, his mouth isn't even open.
He's not sweating yet.
The appreciation you will have for what 6 minutes is.
Right?
God.
It helps teach that, hey, you know what? I need, as a white belt, I need to control what I'm doing. I can't just, like I used to when I was a kid, I'd play or wrestle with my friends, and we're grabbing each other around the head, trying to put each other in headlocks, and then you come into jiu-jitsu, and it's like you're doing the same stuff you did as a kid, and it's like, none of that works. I don't know what to do, and it's like, and you slowly kind of learn, just how to control your breathing and how to control your movement, even if you don't know a million moves. Like you were saying, a few months, 6 months, whatever you had, you knew so much more just in your own body control. Yeah. You certainly learn to pace differently. Like it's its own sport. I wouldn't know another. I mean, other than actual wrestling, but even scholastic wrestling is still a faster pace. The rounds are shorter when you're in meet or whatever. But yeah, you learn to instinctively know when, hey, it's been about 3 minutes, right? You look up at the clock, 3.5, and or you'd be like, when you first start, it's like, this has been forever.
Oh, it's only
90 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
But
6-7 minute rounds. It seemed like an eternity when you're.
Yes. You sure do.
Yes.
So this one will be, I think, last one. Phil. Rule number 5 is, he says, jiu-jitsu is a vehicle for something more.
Yes.
And I think the more there is kind of what you're looking to get, maybe even more out of life. Maybe you guys share experience or opinions on that?
No, that's definitely true. It's led into so many things for me personally. Friendships that have lasted a decade or more. My coaches and I have been training together now for well over a decade, most of them. I have friendships with these guys that have gone for a lot longer than any other friendships that I've had in the past. And that is the most valuable thing I think I've gotten out of training. So
I think for not just like an anxiety medicine, but growing in life for sure. But a main goal for me is to help other women get through certain situations. That's my main goal in this women's class, is like, oh, this is perfect, because so many women come to me and say, hey, I had this happen to me, or an ex or a husband that's abusive, or things that, but I'm too afraid to do this because, men intimidate me. Well, this is perfect. This is something that I've always wanted to do to help other women out, because they need it.
Yeah.
Big protection.
Absolutely. I got goosebumps a little bit just now.
Well, sorry, I didn't mean it. But,
no, I do think you're 100% on to something serious with the women's classes.
So
I don't know what it's like to be a woman. I do not imagine it being very easy, though. No. And I think, especially when you talk about the physical differences between men and women, I mean, some people pretend those don't exist, but reality is like, and jiu-jitsu is kind of what they call it, the equalizer of size. When you equalize size, strength, and especially if you're a woman, I think that's it. Gives you, I would assume anyway, a massive, what do I want to say? It would change the way you think about the rest of the world.
Absolutely it does, because I'm smaller than everybody else.
Yeah. Because I generally walk around, although not maybe around jiu-jitsu people, but feeling confident of like my ability to defend myself at a baseline level. I would not, if I was 5 foot in 110 pounds, feel the same. So I would encourage any woman who has not done jiu-jitsu to try it, if nothing else. Especially in one of our women's classes. I think you'll also find it's probably a lot more fun than you realize it. Sometimes you look through the window over there in jiu-jitsu and it looks so slow, but so much is going on. It's exciting.
A lot is going on.
And we're not just going to be doing jiu-jitsu. There's also some self-defense aspects to it too that we want to teach as well. And I think I know Suzanne has been through a lot of self-defense training. I know Katie has as well. We're going to be doing more of that. We actually have our head instructor, Roy Harris. He's going to be coming back out again, hopefully this year. We're going to do some more around self-defense side of things. So we really want to lean into that more and be able to help people with that. So
wonderful.
So I would say kind of to off of that last question too, I think it leads to something more in your life. I think I'm a mom, so I have a 14-year-old daughter. I would not have raised her the way I did without having participated in the experiences that I had through Muay Thai, through boxing, through Jiu-Jitsu, through going to, self-defense classes. You look at the world differently. And of course, as a parent, you always want to protect your kid, right? And sometimes, a lot of times when there are those difficult conversations, I don't want to have a conversation with my daughter at 14 years old and freak her out about everyone walking around in the world. Hey, everyone's going to try and kidnap you. I don't want to be like that mom. But having had experiences in these different arenas, it kind of shapes you and helps you be a better parent, to have those conversations and know how to direct the conversation in a way that will help your child grow and be aware of their surroundings, but not fearful. And then not even in that, but also knowing we had the Roy Harris seminar, and that was just phenomenal. Some of the things that he said, just the way he worded it. And he was like, you don't have to be in this situation and be aggressive. When someone's at, you're at a club or whatever, and someone's being persistent with you, you don't have to turn around and be aggressive. And that was me. I was always well, I'm gonna get back on his face and redirect, learn how to redirect. I'm oh my gosh, no one ever told me that. What a brilliant thought. So really learning those things helps you teach your kid and keep your kid safe in a positive way. So I really think it trickles up to all areas of your life, but it definitely helps as a mom parenting your son or daughter in the right direction to remain safe in the world that they're living in.
And your daughter does jiu-jitsu?
She has. She's definitely 14. It's definitely
well,
an age where I'm okay, I don't know if I should really be teaching her myself jiu-jitsu at this point, because yesterday we refinished our garage, and I was come in the garage and box with me. She's I don't want to. I'm come on, I'll let you hit me a couple of times. And she could not have gotten to that garage faster. She was gloves on, ready to go, and I was
I love it.
Oh no.
So yeah, Kenzie does do jiu-jitsu. We're the women's class. We are going to have an age cap for that, and we're going to kind of look at just differently. If a mom wants to bring her daughter, kind of how to partner with them, so it's a healthy, safe environment for them to do that together. But yeah, Kenzie and I believe Gabby too was another girl that. We would come early Saturdays, and myself, Jason, my fiance, we would just kind of do stuff, and the kids get it so quick. They really do.
They start threatening you at some point.
They do, yes, they really do. And they're fast, and the older I get, I'm oh boy, my daughter's getting faster than me. But yeah, the kids love it. They really do well. Kenzie's enjoyed it, and we'll get her back into it as soon as we get the program going. So yeah,
awesome.
That's great.
I have no doubt that we'll have more conversations here and talk about these topics more. But thank you so much for coming in to share everything.
This is awesome.
I know logistically getting everyone together is a little hard, but we'll have other conversations we can do. We're just 2-on-2 or 1-on-1 or whatever conversations, but I'd like to keep getting more information, in podcast form and et cetera, to people. I think jiu-jitsu has a personal development aspect that I'm personally attracted to. I don't know what I'll ever get or belt or this or that out of jiu-jitsu, but I'm fascinated by I don't know what I'll get out of it is what attracts me to it. And I know that, again, some of the books, but just the people I've met rolling with you guys has been really nice. Like, the character of the people that are putting in the work. I think there's something to be said for the self-discipline, the day in, day out integrity it takes to be good at it at all. Yes. Which, obviously is true in other sports and other things, but I give you guys all big respect for the years of work you've put in, and then going out of your way to pass that knowledge on to other people is substantial. Like, I think that only improves the quality of our entire facility, but just our community outside of the gym as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's also a great way to get in shape.
Also
I'm
that.
not sure we mentioned, just physical fitness wise.
Absolutely.
I've seen a lot of people transform their physiques, to something that they wanted to change and did it strictly with jiu-jitsu. So
and it's a different type of fitness too. Like I've done a lot of CrossFit and this and that, and it's a different type of fitness. So anyone who's like, I'm in good shape,
cardio is way different.
Go ahead and roll for 6 minutes straight with, it is different, but it's fun. All right, guys. Well, I guess that kind of wraps it up.
Thank you.
Thank you guys
do it
so
again
much.
sooner than later, I hope. And then we'll have to get a list of all your coaches, everyone who's on staff. And I'd like to talk to different ones at different times.
10 plus coaches. We have a lot to get through. So.
A lot of experience out there.
Yeah, that's great.
All right. No problem. Thank you, guys.